What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. The amusement industry has changed a lot in the past 50 years, with attractions coming and going throughout the world. I think Cedar Point is a great example of this because it has been on top of the amusement industry for years on end. So, with Cedar Point being up to date and state of the art, they have seen many attractions come and go throughout the past few decades. But while it is common to see a ride or a coaster come and go, it is rare to see an entire area come and go in the course of only a couple decades. In the 1990s, Cedar Point had some different plans in store. Today, we go back to that time and look at when Cedar Point was building a brand new Midway for their clientele. We are going to be looking at the rise and fall of Challenge Park, and with that, we are also going to be looking at a similar area at Valley Fair. This is Cedar Flags, and today, we are going to be talking about the history of Cedar Point's forgotten Midway, Challenge Park. So, to start this story, we have to go all the way back to the 1980s. At this time, there was still a lot of empty space on Cedar Point's peninsula. Now, Cedar Point is pretty packed now, but back in the 80s, there was still a little bit of land on the northeastern tip. They decided at the time to expand and become more of a resort than just the amusement park itself. In 1988, they added a water park on the peninsula called Soak City, now called Cedar Point Shores. And in 1990, they added Sandcastle Suites. This hotel was placed at the very tip of Cedar Point's peninsula and had very good views and took advantage of land that was unused at the time. At a very similar time, around the 80s and 90s, family entertainment centers, otherwise known as FECs, were all over the United States and they were popping up everywhere. Now, these places were like smaller amusement parks that had different attractions. These include go-karts, mini-golf, arcade games, batting cages, bumper boats, and etc. While most amusement parks will be a pay-to-enter park, and then you could ride anything once you get in there, a lot of these FECs are defined by their upcharge attractions. Cedar Point wanted to try some upcharge attractions out, and opened up Challenge Park in 1992. Weirdly enough, it was not within the boundaries of the amusement park, but was in between the hotels, the water park, and the amusement park itself. It was mainly catered for people staying at the resort that would pass these upcharge attractions while making their way into the real park. The first attraction I want to talk about is the Grand Prix, and it was at the time a very long, fun, and state-of-the-art go-kart track. The second attraction it opened along with was the Challenge Golf. These were two 18-hole golf courses with rocky scenery. With those two attractions opened, they also decided to open up a few shops, a few food stands, and of course, a ticket booth to access the attractions. Cedar Fair, the owners of Cedar Point at the time, also owned Valley Fair near Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in 1991, the year prior, they decided to open up their own Challenge Park. They didn't have it near a hotel, but instead, they had it at the other side of the parking lot, and it featured a go-kart track, a clubhouse, and of course, bumper boats. In the early years of Challenge Park, it was a massive success. But even though it was very successful, Cedar Point was not done making changes to this area. And over the next few decades, there would be a few small and minor changes that would be added and removed from Challenge Park. Around the time, a new major attraction known as the Sky Coaster was blowing up all across the world. You would go up a certain height, pull a ripcord, and come flying down to the ground, and it was definitely an adrenaline rush. Cedar Point opened up Ripcord in the same year. It was a 153-foot dueling sky coaster, and it was placed near the parking lot. Now, funny enough, Valley Fair also added one too. But, funny enough, this one was 180 feet, and it was a single capacity sky coaster, as opposed to the dual capacity one that was found at Cedar Point. What is quite possibly the most interesting attraction in Challenge Park's history started up in 2001 as Vertigo. This was a 265-foot S&S slingshot ride known as Absolutely Insane, and it opened to the public on August 11th, 2001. And to say the least, this ride was loved for its uniqueness, but unfortunately, this ride did not have too long of a life. On January 14th, 2002, only a few months after the ride's opening, part of the 265-foot structure collapsed due to high winds and vortex shedding. Though it was a brand new and state-of-the-art attraction, Cedar Point staff at the time decided that it would be best to remove the ride Anyways, there was a little temporary replacement in 2004 when they added Extreme Trampoline, which opened in Vertigo's spot. This attraction would be a lot smaller and a lot more tame than the former Vertigo. This would be a simple bungee trampoline attraction that is found almost everywhere. This only operated from 2004 to 2007. Now, we are in the mid-2000s, and Cedar Point as a whole has changed a lot even since Challenge Park's opening. And in 2008, Challenge Park's final attraction, Skyscraper, opened up to the public. This was a massive propeller-like ride, and it was 160 feet tall and went to a top speed of 60 miles an hour. It was, to say the least, a very thrilling attraction. And they put this ride in the spot of the former Extreme Trampoline, and even before that, Vertigo. Finally, we get to the 2010s. Cedar Point has changed even more with state-of-the-art attractions such as Gatekeeper and, formerly in the 2000s, Maverick. And to say the least, around this time, upcharge attractions that were once very popular were getting a lot less popular and a lot less buzz overall. Unfortunately, this was the only time I got to experience this area at the park. In 2013, I went to Challenge Park and rode the Skyscraper, and while this area was absolutely deserted, the rest of the park was crowded as could be. So, that really means one thing: this area is not getting a lot of buzz. A few more years pass by and we get to 2015. This is when the Skyscraper and the go-karts suddenly close without too much of a notice. The go-karts and the Skyscraper are gone, and what remains is both the Ripcord and the Challenge Golf. In the following year of 2016, the remaining two attractions at the Challenge Park area would close for good. The two courses at Challenge Golf would be scrapped, and the Ripcord, which was in Challenge Park, would be relocated to the actual park. Like I said, Soak City was an ever-expanding water park, and they saw that the popularity of that area, despite the failure of Challenge Park, was doing pretty good. And so, in 2017, they announced that they would be replacing Challenge Park with an updated area at Soak City, now known as Cedar Point Shores. Now, what happened to Valleyfair's Challenge Park was a little less interesting, but at the same time, it's definitely worth mentioning here. In 2003, Steel Venom, an intimate impulse coaster similar to Wicked Twister, opened up at Valleyfair. They would attach the area to the park and make it a part of Valleyfair. And over time, attractions like the go-karts and the mini-golf would be replaced by permanent rides. But funny enough, the only two remaining attractions from both of these areas are the two Ripcords. Like I said earlier in the video, I was in this area around the time that the area was declining in popularity. And even though I actually like this area and like the addition, I was in the minority. But to be completely honest, I still think that this area should definitely be remembered. If not as an area that was outdated, but as an area that brought an extra amount of fun to your visit at Cedar Point. So, let me know what you thought about this video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and check out the links in the description for my merch and other social media accounts. If you went to Challenge Park, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Anyways, until next time, this is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.